him apart a bit, and I don't want to make it uncomfortable for him. Brian will pick him up now, coming past that beautiful blue rope. There he is.
Okay, thanks, copy that.
So I'm not mistaken, there are 3 young bulls here, one of them with tusks, the other 2 without. I would struggle to believe that she's the mother of all 4 of them, I must say, of all 3 of them. Because this one looks to be the same age as the youngster, if not maybe in between their ages, no, but in between. He's probably about 8 or 9. So I don't think all from the same mum. It begs the question as to where the others are. Now these breeding herds will split up. There's no reason for them to stay together all the time. You'll probably find that they're in communication with each other through the infrasonic calls, which we can't hear. They're too low frequency, and possibly even tectonically, and that means through bashing on the floor. They reckon that elephants can hear each other. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest to find that there was something in the way of extrasensory, what we would term extrasensory communication between them either.
Any other vehicle wanting to come in? I'm willing to put them shortly. I get you. Yeah, go. Go on. Beversham boundary west of Kwatile.
A very nice question from Gert in the Netherlands about the size of tusks, and I suspect sparked by the fact that there are 2 tuskless animals here. Now Gert, you have very correctly surmised that there are not a great deal of big tuskers left in the world. That is because, as you have again correctly surmised, they have been shot out by greedy people with guns, and unfortunately that has meant that the big tuskers of southern Africa no longer are found. There are 1 or 2 around left in the Kruger, but many of the big bulls with their big magnificent tusks are no longer, and their genes have been shot out of the population, distressingly. But, like you say, there are a few big ones up left in Tsavo and Tembo Elephant Park, which we spoke about in the north of KwaZulu-Natal. A couple of big ones there, and with any luck those genes will be bred back into the population. But yes, Kurt, you're absolutely right. The big ones are definitely gone from this area, and indeed when the Kruger Park was proclaimed in 1926, there were only 8 or 10 elephants left in the entire area. That situation's changed, and they're probably now upward of 80,000 in the Kruger. It's a rather thick area, so I don't think I'm going to bash through here after them for too long. But the other thing is that the tusklessness, I don't think has anything to do with the same reasons as that. There are lots of big bulls with very small tusks, and this tusklessness is definitely a genetic thing, but I don't think it's born of hunting. I think it's born of, well, it may have been, its prevalence in the population may have been increased by the hunting of tusked bulls, but certainly I think it always did occur naturally, just maybe not in the same profusion that it does now. Very nice question, thank you, Chad. Love those questions that spark a bit of debate and question. So that's the mother, and you can see that she's got quite decent sized tusks for a cow. And that little fellow's now seeking comfort. He's just going to check with his mum that everything's okay. He's stealing some of the food out of her mouth. He's probably just a little bit nervous having us driving around the place. Isn't he sweet? He's being a brat. He's just being a total brat. look at these two tuskless animals. Susan, you want to know, will they be tolerated in the herd? On Twitter. Susan, of course they will. There's no reason for the females to dislike them anymore, except when it comes to mating. They may not select for them, and they may struggle therefore for mating opportunities, but they certainly wouldn't be excluded from a herd any more than a tusked bull would. So I don't think that there would be any problem with that. That youngster is just being a brat. All he's doing, he's trying to learn from his mother. He's going, he's picking what she's eating. He wants some of what she's eating, and I'm sure those of you who've had children know exactly what is going on here. Just getting very cross that mummy won't share her food. With a beautiful new, almost translucent green colour shining in this late afternoon sun, juxtaposed with the grey of the elephant. I think it's just marvellous. And how quickly these elephants just disappear into this vegetation. It always astounds me. So I suspect she is probably part of a larger herd, if you like, or population that makes its home in this area, and this is their home range, and they'll split up just to feed and maybe go and have a drink, and then they'll come together again. And a little group of 4 like this is not entirely usual for this area. I'd say 10 to 15 is the most normal size for a herd of elephants in this particular area. Not quite what they are in the vast swathes of Botswana, where you can get up to 100 in a herd, or even more, sometimes 300 in a herd. Herds that size are almost unheard of in this area. Right, while we watch these elephants and see what they're going to do, I'm very glad to tell you that the bush walk kit seems to be fully functional today, which is excellent news. We're going to head across to Scott. He's going to show you some tracks, and I will probably wait with these elephants and see you just a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone, and what a beautiful scene it is, the setting sun with those clouds in the distance. We haven't had any luck finding Karula, but thankfully Steph has been very helpful in finding interesting things along the way, and spotted a lioness track just on the road below us here. And it's a great opportunity for us to get down, and even though the track is here within the circle, it's very difficult to see in the overcast curtains. So I'm going to use my torch or flashlights to act like the rising or sun, and this goes to show how when the sun is above us, like I'm shining it directly above the track now, it's difficult to see, whereas at sunrise, the sun is at a lower angle, it's much easier to see the depressions from the shadows cast. Left paw of the lioness, you can see how my left hand fingers fit in very easily, whereas if I use my right hand, it doesn't kind of work. So it's very easy. You just simply put your hand above the track, and this we can tell is a left paw. It looks to me like it could be a back paw, which is always smaller than the front paw of almost all four-legged animals. The bulk of their weight is carried on their front legs, head, shoulders, all the organs. So you'll typically find the front foot being the biggest. And I'm guessing that this is a track of one of the Nkuhuma lioness, who, judging by the tracks Brent found this morning, have reunited. It looked like the remaining 6 members of that pride have finally reunited after a week apart, but sadly they crossed north into Buffelshoek. So these tracks would have been from last night. But what I love being on, why I love being on foot is the fact that you can imagine being there exactly where this lion was, just at a slightly different time. Now we found some other interesting artifacts along the way. I'm going to make this quick because I know James did a great job in finding that breeding herd of elephants for you. And we can thank Jean-Dre for finding this porcupine quill.
Crash cut, you live? Hello everybody, sorry about that, as I obviously I preempted the failure, catastrophic thereof, of the walking kit. They went black screen. I don't know if it's exploded or what's happened, but they're no longer live. We are live. The elephant is just behind us. I'm a little bit loath to move actually. She's came quite close while you were away. What we're going to do is an attempt to maneuver that doesn't disturb her, so it's going to be painfully slow and probably with lots of wheel turnings. Misconceptions created by that what was a wonderful film with beautiful music and very little in the way of biology, and that is The Lion King. And there is no such thing as an elephant graveyard. Again, because elephants go down to the rivers and spend a lot of time down there in their last years, often their bones sink into the sand there, into the water. And also, of course, you know, you don't see a lot of bones around because the hyenas will take them away, and the carcasses get spread apart over the years by the scavengers that come and eat on the bones, and then they just weather away eventually into the ground. Not a lot of fossilization going on in the exposed areas on top of the ground here. Not sure quite why she's showing us her bottom at this stage, but even an elephant's bottom with a sun like that behind it is quite magnificent. That little one is definitely seeking comfort from its mother. The other two are off behind us, very comfortably eating away towards the east. And the little one there, you can see, has picked a very long piece of round leaf teak and bitten off all of the bark. It's a really trying time for an elephant because they have to eat so much. Not sure if there's still communications with the final control at this stage. Oh, look at that. Right, Heidi, I think I've got your question correctly. Well, certainly the second part. I'm going to deal with that first. You say the other night on the Arathusa Dam cam, you were watching a herd of elephants coming down to drink perhaps, and you saw that they were with some hippos, and you wondered how they interact. Elephants, there's no blanket statement here. Elephants are deeply respected by just about everything else out here, and that's simply by virtue of the fact that they're the biggest. So if you get in their way and they don't like you, well, you can get yourself into quite a lot of trouble. Hippopotamus are very nervous if they are separated from their water, but I don't think that they worry about elephants separating them from their water. So unless there was a young bull, a bull elephant I mean, that was sort of coming into his first must and hadn't been disciplined sufficiently by the old bulls or by the matriarch, then I suppose the hippo might have trouble. Same with the rhino. Elephants have been known to kill rhino every so often, normally young bulls testing themselves, and rhino sort of not taking any nonsense and then being killed by big elephant bulls. So that does sometimes happen. Then the first part of your question, I think, is related to the second, and it is, why do we see elephants alone so much of the time? Heidi, they don't tolerate too much in the way of other animals. I think they also eat in a different fashion, so we don't see a lot of kudu and that sort of thing around elephants, because, I wonder, that's actually a very good question. I haven't thought of it before. But so the method that they feed is that they eat a lot of bark and stuff that perhaps the kudu don't. The kudu would be selecting for much more herbaceous material. So I think there's, in winter when the elephant's predominantly browsing, we don't see other browsing antelope around them, possibly because they're eating a different suite of species. So nothing else that I know of other than elephants eats these round-leaf teaks the way they are now, and very little also eats the combretums, and especially the combretum rootstock. The elephants are the only ones that are able to get at the combretum rootstock. So I think that's why in winter you wouldn't. Then in summer, in the long grass, when the elephants are trying to graze, do we see other animals with them? I suppose we don't see other animals hugely around them, and perhaps there is a level of intolerance that elephants display towards other herbivores. I know certainly around water, if water is scarce, they are not tolerant of other animals trying to drink when they are trying to drink. And that especially goes for the bulls, who do not tolerate buffalo, and they don't tolerate baboons. I've seen them chasing baboons off. That's normally the young bulls though. So it's not a blanket statement. We can't say that they're inherently massively intolerant to other species, but they do tend to be, I think other animals are just very wary of them, simply by virtue of their vast size. So I hope that answers your question, Heidi. Another very good one, I must say. So this is obviously a pretty good area for them to be feeding, because they're just walking round and round and round the same sort of spot, eating on these pterocarpus trees. Oh dear. There goes it looks like a gardenia. No, it's not. I'll go and have a look at what it is. Let's just reverse out of here. And we can't get a bit closer. So Sonia and Dorse, while I move the car slightly in order to get a better view of that elephant, you want to know about the hippo that Brian and I found mired in the mud yesterday, which I thought might be stuck. No, I think I'm going to wait here actually. She looks like she's coming closer herself. The hippo is out. It wasn't there this morning. We went to have a look, and there was nothing but stony silence lurking around where the hippo was yesterday, and so it got out absolutely scot-free and not harmed. Now that little tin shack you can see behind the elephant is where Eugene lives. That's where we put him. That's where he sort of works from there, eats from there. He has a small kitchenette inside, and of course all the power cables and things for the mast that is broadcasting to us as we speak. We let him out once a week for an hour when he is allowed to go into town to buy some supplies, and then he's back into his little tin shack there. I am of course joking. Eugene does not live in that shack. There's a lot of very sophisticated equipment that Eugene messes around with in there, but he doesn't live in it. Here comes this beautiful elephant. We watch this beautiful big cow walking gently towards us. I'm going to lower my voice slightly in the hopes that she might come even closer. We got a question about how old she could be from, I think it's from San Francisco. Radio's a little bit off. Yes, Grace in Frisco, Texas, I think. You want to know how long she will live? Well, she'll probably live up to about 60 years, 55 to 60 years in the Kruger Park, Here they do have to eat quite a lot more wood than they would in other areas, like Botswana in the Okavango Delta, for example, and so their teeth don't last quite as long as they might in areas where the food is a bit softer. So in areas like the Okavango, where elephants are resident, they might live 5 or 6 years longer, maybe pushing to 60 or 65 years. Thank you, Grace. Just quietly really enjoying, absorbing this magnificent sight. You'll see if she doesn't come a little bit closer to us. She seems to be completely relaxed around us, which is just such a treat. She's watching us, make no mistake, and every time the wind blows slightly towards her, she picks up the scent of us humans, and she just gives us a weary little look. Now, a second Grace from Texas. Interesting question. Must be lots of Graces in Texas if 2 of them are watching this show. Grace, you want to know if the situation presented itself, would a bull elephant mate with his mother? I don't know, Grace. I imagine it's probably possible. I think it's highly unlikely, though. I think that the elephants show a very much tighter family bond that sort of doesn't, unlike the lions, you know, which of course are where incest is commonplace and really not harmful at all to the gene pool. If it happens for 1 or 2 generations, I don't think the same can be said for elephants, and I think you'll find that they'll avoid that quite studiously. This is a beautiful cow. And a very excellent question from a very astute little girl in Ohio called Gracie. Gracie is aged just 8, so the 3rd Grace of the afternoon. Gracie, you want to know why it is that a tuskless elephant would be bullied by some of the others. It's not very nice. Gracie, it isn't very nice at all. Look at the way that that cow is stripping that piece of strychnos. No, it's not. It's zebra wood. Chewing the bark off that zebra wood. Gracie, you want to know why they're bullied? Gracie, it's simply because in the animal world, normally the bigger you are and the stronger you are, the more chance you have of being safe. So, unlike with human beings, where we will talk with each other sometimes if we don't agree, in the animal world, the bigger you are, no matter how bad your argument, the bigger you are, the more often you tend to win the argument. And so an elephant without tusks is going to struggle to fight an elephant that does have tusks, and so that's why they would be bullied by some of the others. So I'm afraid it isn't very nice, but I think it does happen quite a lot. Look at that beautiful foot. But the nice thing, Gracie, about elephants, of course, is that they live in herds. So that bull will be protected by the herd that he lives in. As long as he doesn't cause trouble, he'll be allowed to stay in his herd. That is a magnificent picture. Gee whiz. Hold on, Brian, that's incredible. That thing that she's eating is called Dalbergia melanoxylon, or the zebra wood. And those thorns that she's pushing through her mouth would go straight through the tires of this Land Rover. And that's not because the tires are worn or old, it's because the strength of that wood is quite astonishing, and how she's managing to avoid being spiked on the pallet and the trunk and then the tongue, I just don't know. That is amazing. Now, she's picking off branches that are probably about, say, 1 inch in diameter. Bugsy, you wanted to know how thick they are. That one that she's holding there is probably about 1/2 inch in diameter. Look at those thorns. Look at those massive thorns that are about to come out the other side of her mouth. And she'll eat much thicker ones, twice as thick as that, up to about 1 inch in diameter. And sometimes even bigger. Certainly the Cambritum ones, they'll eat, some of them are thick to about 2 or 3 inches at the base. But thicker than that, not so much. Didn't like that piece. Take the other piece that she's already been sucking on. Picking off the, see how she's tearing the bark off and then pushing it into her mouth. It really is a full-time job eating as an African elephant. Wonderful. And they are so selective about what they eat, you know. Look at her selecting individual branches. She wants the thick one now, so she separated that from the others, twisted her trunk round it. If it doesn't come out easily enough, she'll break it with her foot. Here we go, here comes the foot. That is just so great. She's eating now. Now she is eating strychnos, you know, that's not zebrawood anymore. She's eating a strychnos, or black monkey orange, and those are most of the trees, sorry, Brian. Those are most of the trees that you can see around us here. We're in something of a strychnos thicket, and she's mercifully helping to clear it a bit. Now, interestingly, strychnos, is that strychnos or is it more zebrawood? Can't see very clearly. No, that's more zebrawood. She's eating more zebrawood. She's not eating the strychnos. I think I may be talking nonsense. I'm going to get my powerful binoculars out so that I have a quick look. It's definitely strychnos. Now I've created clearly a little bit of consternation here with Angela in Boston. I've confused you by saying, why would I lower my voice if I didn't want to interact with them? I said earlier I'd lower my voice so that she came closer to us. What I meant there, Angela, is that the human voice can be a deterrent. It can scare an elephant. It can make them wary of us. So if I lower my voice, what it does is put her completely at ease and allow her to almost ignore us. So by so doing, if you can get into a situation where the elephant is almost treating you as part of the furniture, then they do come very close by without any kind of interaction. And what that does is it just fills you with the most tremendous sense and awe of their amazing power, and they really are just spectacular animals. So by lowering my voice, I'm not trying to bait her into coming towards us at all. I'm just trying to make sure that she sees us as part of the furniture. So I'm not in any way trying to have some kind of anthropogenic interaction with her, or communication experience with her at all. That's all I meant by that, Angela. Very good question. You can see immediately how it would have sounded like I was trying to bait her towards us. But it's quite the opposite. So I really love it. I really love it when elephants come close to us of their own volition, and I really dislike driving towards them. So nice when we get close to them when they've come towards us. I'm just going to point over to that side. Brian is frantically pointing at what is yet another spectacular Djuma Kruger Park low-felt South African, which of course is the best country in the world, sunset. Beautiful. Golden, honey, lemon, and a little bit of orange thrown in there. Isn't that beautiful? And I think it's Patty, who's probably on a plane towards us as we speak, and she'll be enjoying one of those African sunsets come tomorrow evening. Stunning. Well done, Brian. Good job, good job. This cow is still in front of us, feeding away. Oh, that's wonderful. Never get sick of them. There's Eugene's house. So, before we disappear and leave these elephants, Penny Pine, you would like to know if Eugene ever invites me over for dinner in his house. He does, but you know, I'm a bit of a snob, so I don't go and spend too much time in his tin shack with him. I do invite him over to our place every so often, and we feed him once a month or so. Otherwise, he lives just there on his own in that, with the elephants in his tin shack. Right, I have some very good news which I'm not going to give to you. I'm going to let the bearer of the news give it to you herself. The diminutive, stoic, and highly, what should we say? Yeah, what is the word that I'm groping for? Diminutive, stoic, and I've lost the word completely. What it means, the word I'm looking for means that she doesn't give up. We're going to hand you over to Jamie, who has had some marvelous success, and I will see you a little bit later. Oh, that's just magnificent. Look at that sun.
Well, welcome back. And yes, indeed, it took us quite a long time in the concerted efforts of the three of us circling round and round, and then stopping to listen for the sounds of them growling at each other. But we have indeed located Tingana and Kwatile. And at the moment you can see why it took us so long to find them. Only got a nice view of Kwatile at the moment. She's just settled down. In terms of maneuverability, this is not the easiest block to drive around in. VM and I have been dodging branches left, right and centre. But there we have it. And she really is probably one of the most beautiful leopards I've seen around here. There's something absolutely perfect about her. And we will be staying with them for the rest of the duration of the sunset safari, because I'm sure that at some point very soon, now that it's a little bit cooler, there's a very good chance they're going to get up and mobile. She still seems to be flirting with him every now and again, but so far there's been no mating action. And I've just been listening to Doug chatting on the other vehicle. Now we have a bit of an answer to the mystery as to why Kwatile has been mating. And apparently she did have cubs, so we can confirm those suckle marks were there. But it seems as though she may have lost them. And that could be anything from other male leopards to hyena to other lions in the area. And it could be that her hormones, if she has lost her cubs, have immediately come back into play, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to get pregnant immediately from this mating. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, but it seems to be more likely that she has lost her cubs. She's just a blur of spots in a drainage line. Now Tingana, you can't see him at the moment. Actually, neither can I from where I did. Oh, I can still see him, but it's a very, very awkward angle. Unfortunately, I can't get you there. From that dead stump there, that is essentially where he is. He's just behind and to the left of that on the termite mound. And I'm sure they will get up and about. But very, very cool that we managed to find them in the end. And I was absolutely determined that we were not going to leave without seeing them again after that lucky break where we bumped into them this morning. Sands. And we're sort of maybe 200 meters from where that injured Dacre was, although I think it's unlikely that they're going to go hunting now. I think what she's going to do is, it does take about maybe half a day to a day for the female to really get that male to get ready to mate. She's got to keep on giving him the message until he finally receives it and starts to mate with her, and then they'll mate continuously for the next few days. But the difficulty is, of course, is finding them. So we got lucky this morning, and then that gave us a head start for this afternoon, and that's why I really, really just want to sit with them and see what they get up to. It's the first time I've ever seen this kind of courting behavior. I've seen leopards mating before, but this is the first time that I've ever seen the female constantly initiating the contact with the male, and with the male basically ignoring her, getting up, moving away. So it's been an important lesson for me as well as to how the sort of mating process with the leopards starts out. And she seems to have exhausted herself from her efforts, and having seen her this morning, I'm not surprised. She did a lot of bouncing and springing and waving of her tail around and around, so I think she must be feeling fairly tired. Tingana's taking it all in his stride. It's obviously not the first time he's been through this whole process, and he's collapsed quite happily on top of a termite mound under a guarri bush and seems content to stay there. You listen really, really closely to the sounds that she makes. An old puncture wound around there. And that could be, it could be an old mating injury. You'll
never find it. Call him in from that side.
The male does grip her behind the back of the neck when he mates with her, just to hold her and stop her from swatting him too hard.
Everybody watch out for the branches as we crash our way out.
Here we go. Perfect. We could actually see that here. Tiny little V-notch, which is a perfect identifying feature because it's not something that's going to heal anytime soon. And just while I'm chatting a bit about Karen's update, she also tells me that that our live safaris are broadcast on 4 sites. So the Nat Geo website, the Wild Earth website, on YouTube, and then on Ustream as well. So thank you for that. And Raj, if you were listening, that is where you can find our live safaris. There you go, you can just see the notch in the top of the left ear. But she's definitely not a leopard that I will ever mistake ever again. It was the first time I saw her this morning. She's got a very distinctive gold colour. Now while Kwatile is sleeping off some of her exertions from earlier, and possibly when we have a chance to maybe reposition ourselves, Scott is waiting to say goodbye from his bushwalking afternoon. So we're going to head across to him and then catch up with you a little bit later, but never fear, we will be back with these leopards as soon as possible. Cheers for now.
Well, what a wonderful way to finish off the afternoon bushwalk here at Djuma, an African sunset that we've managed to share with you live, and some special moments in between. Thankfully for all of you though, it's not over just yet, and you guys are going to be going back to Jamie and Kwatile. Well done for all of her hard work to get you back into that sighting. When I was on camera with her this morning, they moved into some incredibly thick bush, which I'm told they're still hiding away in, but be patient and there's still time. Hopefully they're going to come out and you're going to get to see some awesome hostile signal when I was showing you this porcupine quill earlier. And the porcupine quill is a wonderful thing to see because we don't often get to show you the porcupines, which isn't much good. Like the aardvark that we chatted about earlier, where we saw it had burrowed and excavated for termites, the porcupine is also nocturnal, just like that animal, the aardvark, and that's why we don't get to see them very often. I've only seen one in the Sabi Sands and approaching 4.5 years of being here, but their tracks are always around. Now, this tiny little section at the end is what would be embedded in the skin of the porcupine, and the rest will stick out. And what porcupines will do when they're moving about, I'll simulate. I've only got one quill, sadly. They've got hundreds. But they'll walk with the quills flattened against their back. And if there's any potential threats, they will lift the quills up and keep their back and bottom with hundreds of quills aiming at the potential threat. Their front end is the soft end. So if animals like leopard and honey badgers do attack, when lion do attack a porcupine, they're probably going to get a few stray quills, but if they get to the head, I think I just heard an impala alarm call. but it was just one. So maybe in this windy weather, the impala got a little bit of a fright, let off an alarm call, and then realized it was nothing to worry about, but I'll still keep listening. And yeah, back to the porcupine, one of Africa's, well, it is Africa's largest rodent, and this essentially is its hair. Hayden, who some of you may know, another presenter who will be coming back soon to join us for a short stint, which is really exciting news. He had a lucky porcupine quill a while back. Sadly, this one is broken, so we are not going to keep this one for Hayden to add to his arsenal of lucky quills. But good news that some of you will get to see Hayden as well as Peter rejoining us for a short period in the future. Well, I'm not going to keep you here too long. I'm going to give you one last view of the vanishing colors at the sunset, and then we're going to send you back to Jamie. So let's take one last look, and while we're looking at the sun, I can answer a question from Rudy in California. And Rudy's interested to know, where is it that the aardvark live during the daytime? It's a good question, Rudy. Much like the excavations it makes to get its food, it also excavates burrows. And Jamie will be able to tell you a story about aardvark burrows. I'm told she fell into one whilst driving, or the vehicle fell into one. And there's quite a few of them actually around Balanites Road on the western portions of Djuma. So we know where they're hiding and sleeping during the day, but they only come out late at night. And good to have you on the bushwalk this evening, Rudy. Really wonderful stuff. And we're going to answer one or two more questions while we wait for these leopards to come out. So good to have you, and isn't it incredible that you can join us live on these walking safaris? It's really, really awesome stuff, and can't wait to do more with you. There's so many interesting small things that we can see and do that you cannot do on the vehicle. So it's really exciting, and let's hope the tech issues and Eugene, our tech wizard, keeps cracking the codes to all these little problems. Now, another question's just come through from a good friend of mine, Matty. Wild dogs on foot. Well, there would be a massive smile on my face, Matty, because we haven't seen wild dogs, but hopefully they're going to be coming back soon. And there were actually reports that there were some not too far away from us this morning, Matty, up in Buffalo's Hook, and they've been moving around with their young pups, and hopefully they'll continue to move further south. If and when they do come further south and we do approach them and bump into them on foot, usually they run off a short distance. They're quite nervous of people on foot, as are the lions and the leopards and the elephants. Most of the time, if you're walking through the bush and you come across any wild animal, it will choose to run away from us because they don't want to have a fight unnecessarily, and they don't want to risk getting any injuries. Even though we're very small, they know that we can be dangerous, so they would rather avoid us, and the wild dogs are no different. In my experience, they will get up, run a few meters, and as long as you back up slowly and give them their space, you can get back to the vehicle and then bring your guests back in on the vehicle, and the dogs will just be at ease, relaxed. So it's not an animal that we have to be worried about attacking us. The wild dog, as well as the cheetah, Matty, it's very unlikely that a wild cheetah or a wild dog would ever attack us. Leopard and lion are different. That can happen from time to time, but cheetah and wild dog are two of the predators that we really don't need to worry about, and it's only really in captive scenarios where they may be breeding these animals where people might get the odd nip from them. Good to know that you're watching, Matty, and we are going to send you back to Jamie now. Let's hope the leopards don't take too long to come out of their hiding places, and I think it's worth staying tuned in case they do. Thanks so much for all your contributions, and it's been wonderful having you guys on a live walking safari. So look forward to some more in the coming days. Steph might be taking a few, and I'm sure a lot of you would be looking forward to see Steph in front of the camera again, so that's also something to look forward to. Well done to Nikki and Jess, who's fresh out from Joburg in the final control. Thanks for your help there. Back to Jamie. We'll see you next time.
Was to continue, and you know, overall that's the biggest problem with all of these big cats, particularly lions.
Welcome back.
They are technically all
And
inbreeding
not much has changed on this. It's very, very quiet and still.
And even those places are
And
tiny.
Kwatile and Tingana
with those lions.
Are soon to be mating leopards, even though they haven't quite got there yet.
So there's been some clever people who
Fast
tried
asleep.
to suggest, you know, like genetic biodiversity swapping and things like that to try and mix up the gene pool, but then, you know,
I'm very glad that we got to them when we did, because it's amazing how fast it gets dark out here.
specifically evolved for
And it
this
would have been
exact environment.
very
So
tricky
to take them and put them somewhere else, you're playing God, and
to
not even
find
in a
them,
good way.
even just
like
maybe
picking
10 or
something
15 minutes
randomly.
after we did.
Because
So we
you've
got
like
really
this other
lucky.
guy you can go over here. Nature would naturally do it through a
Something made her
natural,
look up.
quite steady not a good idea, but at this stage, serious cause for concern.
Although they look very, very relaxed, just looking at the time, I think there's a good chance that she's going to get up fairly soon and go and initiate some contact with Tingana on the top of the termite mound. And when she does get up and move, then we will be able to pull forward a little bit, hopefully, and be able to get a visual of both of them. At the moment, I don't want to move any further into the gap just because that will disturb her. This has been quite an interesting lesson, as I mentioned before, in leopard behavior. We've considered all possibility, but I think the most likely of those is that I think that the most likely explanation is that she has lost her cubs, which is very, very unfortunate, but it is just the way of things. I'm just sorry, I just got distracted a little bit by the game drive channel. There's other vehicles trying to make their way in, but our position here is secure. They just had to try and find their way to us, and as I said, it is a very, very thick block that we are in. I'm just looking to see if there's any space for us to move around to make life a little bit easier for the other vehicle, but I don't think there is, unfortunately. Oh, she's looking up again. She's got a cut behind her right shoulder blade on her side. But the cut behind her shoulder blade looks a little bit fresher than this hole that looks healed over. Just trying to have a look with binoculars to see if I can see further in there. But yes, and that's because they have barbed penises. So the mating tends to be a little bit painful for the female, and she often responds quite aggressively. So he holds her down just to stop her from swatting him or interrupting the mating before it's finished.
It's really a beautiful male, this guy, as horrible as he is. He actually showed himself.
It's actually a beautiful evening. It's gone really, really still after all of that wind that we had earlier. Although I don't know if that's because we're just really tucked away in this drainage line. No, there's a bit of a breeze still, but there's lots and lots of birds out. I can hear fiery neck nightjars, I can hear fork-tailed drongos, cisticulars, franklins. They're all out in force this evening. Now typically an leopard mating session, when they are in sort of the full swing of her estrus, what they will do is every 20 minutes or so, just like with lions, the female will go and initiate the mating. She'll go up to him, she'll rub her head on his, she'll rub her tail over his face, and then she'll present herself to be mated with. And that will happen once every 20 minutes for somewhere between 3 to 5 days. It's slightly shorter with leopards than it is for lions. But that is what will continue to happen if she stays with him and if they continue to mate. Now it will be interesting to see. Now I've said that she's lost her cubs and probably in all likelihood won't get pregnant for, this might not be a full estrus for her to have come into a full estrus so soon after losing something like that. But it will be interesting to see if she adopts the technique that other females adopt around here, which is to mate with as many males in the area as possible. I'd be curious to see. I think in this particular circumstance it's just her hormones are immediately coming up after the cubs have gone and she stopped lactating. Curious to see what happens though. It'll be an interesting lesson, and I'm going to go and do some further reading up onto what happens with leopards when they do lose their cubs and how quickly they can come into estrus, because I know that Jane saw her basically a week ago, I think it was, or maybe just more than a week ago, and she had fresh suckle marks, which we now know to be the case. We weren't too sure, but we now know it was true. I'm curious to see how this situation plays out. It is very, very sad to her, but unfortunately leopard cubs do have an exceptionally high mortality rate, and more than half of those mortalities can be caused by male leopards or male leopards moving through the area, which is why it will be interesting to see if she adopts that technique of mating with wash. And if she does conceive over the next few days whilst mating with Tingana, then she will hide them away for quite a long time before we see any sign of them. Leopards tend to hide them tuck them away in drainage lines or in secret rock crevices, which makes absolute sense, having just spoken about their high mortality rate and the dangers that they face. And of course she's got to leave them alone to go out hunting on a regular basis.
You can come in from that side. That's where Sean was viewing from. The visual is pretty much the same all around. That side you're looking across over the side. They get up and run over.
Now I mentioned a little bit earlier, we stopped for that poor Dacre with the very broken leg, and over the next few days they will need to eat, although most of their focus will be on mating. It's not unheard of for leopards to go those 5 or so days without eating at all, but if there is an opportunity then they will hunt, and Mavis was wondering if they will hunt together, and possibly not, although they're not really cooperative hunters as a rule, although there is a chance that if something runs in front of them, being opportunists, they might race towards it and try and catch it. But what they will do is if one of them kills something, here we go, she's up and about. Now let's listen very, very closely to the sounds that she's going to make. He's still not responding, but I haven't moved just because I wanted to the visual isn't going to be great. How are you doing here? Okay, here there. I'll grab the spotlight now. Now, unfortunately, just because of the position that they are in, we really can't get the best view. That's Tingana that you're looking at the moment. He showed absolutely no interest in her flirtation. Just trying to get the car to stay still. It was right on quite a steep part of the drainage line. I'm going to rock forward a little bit. There we go. Lighten up a little bit. Whoop. There you go. Popped his head up. And there you can see Tingana. Isn't he a spectacular boy? There they go. Listen to the sounds they're making.
Sept, did you copy? You must also make your way in.
Almost like a purr.
Yeah, it is. It's a very, very low purr. It's a combination between a growl and a purr. But it really is quite the sound. And you're right, that's exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like if you sort of quadrupled or put a house cat and put it 10 times the size that it is and listen to it purr, that's the sound that they're making. And of course leopards can purr, so that's what she's doing. A flirty husky purring sound to attract his attention. She has now she is settled down also on the termite mound off to the right of him. I don't think we're going to be able to see her from our position.
Jamie, do you want to come and take this spot quickly before Walker comes?
That would be awesome. We got a good view. Thank you. Thanks, Doug. Doug is just offering us a slightly better position from where we are. It's just really wants us to do that quickly so that another vehicle can come in. That's easier said than done here, but let's give it a try. Okay, sorry. Shall I go? Yeah, I'll go forward. Sorry, I thought you were out. We'll just shift forward a little bit. Okay, let's quickly get ourselves in here. I can hear them growling again. Try and get a nice view of them. Here we go. I'm going free, I think. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Let me duck my head down. Can't move too much further forward or we're going to fall down into a drainage line. But we've got this spectacular view of Tingana and his lady friend. And he is... actually this is Kwatile here, isn't it?
No,
He's still up at the top at the back, yeah. So we were looking at Kwatile in the front. Tingana, it's actually quite funny. He's almost turned his back quite grumpily away from her. I think at the moment her affections are not being welcomed. Oh, she's a beautiful leopard. She really, really is. Keep my head out of the way. This is probably the best positioning we can get at the moment because there's a hole in front of our left tire. So I just have to remember to keep my head out of the way. And now let's wait and see if she decides to show him a little bit more of that affection we were talking about. She's a big female. I'm just looking at her now. She's got quite a big solid neck. I'm not sure how old she is. I'm sure many of the viewers will know. But she is much, much bigger than Shadow is in terms of bulk. And of course she comes from a completely different genetic line. Oh. Oh, she's beautiful. She apparently comes to just try and get the light balance right here. She's very, very close to us, which is why you're getting part of the car in frame. She's actually looking very thin as well. Now that I'm seeing her standing next to us, her shoulder blades are quite protruding, her hips are, she is looking thin. She's a stockily built leopard, but she does look hungry. So Mavis, what we were saying about them hunting and feeding, it could well be that she's going to be on the hunt. There you go. Oh, that's a puncture wound. That looks like it might have been from a tooth. There's two of them actually. I would say that's a bite mark. That could be a bite mark, or that could be puncture wounds from horns of something that she was trying to hunt. And it could even have been but those are fresh. It could even have been in defense of her cubs, whatever happened to them. Sure, she looks like she's actually had a lucky escape there. But fear not, it is just flesh wounds. Here we go, let's listen to this. Tail. Hello, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good, thanks.
So Jamie, Roy just asked how much longer will you be here?
We've got another few minutes. We've just moved into this position, but in a moment I'll pull out so that you can have a good view.
Roy? Yeah, another 3 to 5 minutes.
Now this, as you can imagine, is a very exciting sighting for all. And there are 3 vehicles here at the moment. But how cool was that behavior? Now it could well be, having had a look at those puncture wounds, just how they were so evenly spaced. It either came from a bite mark, but I think most likely it's horns, something that she acquired while she was hunting. But now, although Tingana has been completely unresponsive for the moment, she may need to keep this up over the next few hours, and probably by at least tomorrow he will start to respond. It can take anywhere from a couple of hours to... Ooh, something startled her. And there she goes again. Oh, that is a big male leopard. He really is spectacular. She started the purring again. Here she goes.
Yeah, the male is the big one. The big size difference. Yeah. Male is about 2 times bigger and heavier than the female.
There we go. So a bit of, or quite a lot of flirting from Kwatile there. And Tingana has decided to respond by having a quick wash. And that is it. He is completely ignoring her for now. And we'll have to see where they are tomorrow to see if they're going to start mating. Now there are a couple of vehicles that are waiting to come into this sighting, and as you can imagine, it's amazing for some of the other guests to get to see. So we're going to stay here for another 2 or 3 minutes just to spend a little bit of time with them, and then we're going to move out and make space for other people, especially because it is so very thick in here. Just want to... there she is. I thought I heard her. Popping out again in front of us. Let's see if she starts it up again.
Come by.
Very, very cool. Awesome behavior to see. And now you know what I mean when I said she was flirting with him. And she's has now decided to flop down and play coy down here. Oh, that was exhausting work. Now, unfortunately, there are about 2 vehicles standing by on the road near us, and I think we've definitely had the best view out of everyone here. Now it is time for us to leave and let other people have a chance to see. But it has been a wonderful evening, and I thank you all for joining us, and at least we've got to spend some time with these very special leopards. So for now, I'm going to say good night to you all, and we will see you tomorrow morning for the sunset safari. Hopefully we get a chance to catch up with these two. We can see if she's finally been successful in mating with Tingana. And for now, we're going to cross to James to say goodbye, and I'm going to head out. Cheers for now.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Wendy. Sorry you had to leave what sounds like an utterly spectacular sighting, and I'm so glad that Jamie's enthusiasm and profound stoic determination managed to get you into what must have been a very exciting sighting. I'm a little confused myself. The last time I saw Kwatile, or the first and only time I saw Kwatile, she was identified by you, and so I have complete faith that that's who she was. Double spot pattern on each side, and she looked like she was lactating. Now, it seems that the liberal lady is on the way to trying to mate with Tingana again. So I really don't know what's going on. I'd love to hear from you perhaps in the morning what your theories are, and if indeed she is lactating, or perhaps her nipples are just swollen from an overzealous cub last time round. Anyway, we don't know. Well done, Jamie, and a big thank you to her, of course, and to Mvium, who's back from his leave, for going over there to Arathusa, making the effort and probably making the show. Thank you, of course, to that magnificent herd of elephants that we had. It was an excellent time with them. And just to reiterate, I was speaking quietly. There was a lot of debate about interacting with animals. All of the emotions and way that I interact with the bush here, and it's the same for all of us, is to have the least contact and least impact on animal behavior as possible. It's not always possible for us to be totally unimpactful, because obviously we're driving around in a big car, we are talking, there's a damn great aerial on the back of the car, but as far as possible we do try and remain as neutral as possible in this magnificent wilderness area. Thank you to Brian.
Thank you.
The thumb, which is now appearing on your screen. Star of the show is the thumb, of course, second to Kwatile and Tingana only. And thank you to Nikki and recently returned Jessica. Questions and comments, great discussions we've had, and we'll see you tomorrow as the dawn breaks in Africa. Bye bye, and stay safe and happy wherever you are in the world. See you tomorrow.